Welcome to Gympie Seriously. I'm Annie.
And I'm Bruce.
And together we'd like to discuss all the issues and happenings around town that we think the community in Gympie and surrounds needs to take
seriously. G'day Annie, it's so good to be back in front of the microphones and to have a chat with you again.
It's been a while, Bruce.
It's been way too long.
Quite a few months actually, but it is great to be back and we have got so much to talk about. Let's start with one of the most exciting things that Gympie people have been looking forward to is the opening of the new bypass. Now, we're not quite there, but on Saturday, they're going to have the Community Open Day.
That's right, Saturday the 17th. It's going to be fantastic. I've heard also they're going to have toilets there. It's a big walk, isn't it? Like
It's
2
about,
kilometres.
you can walk, you can jog, you can even hop if you want to.
I prefer to drive it, but we'll take what we can get at this point. No, it's very exciting. I think Gympie's going to just boom from it. It's going to be so exciting to see less traffic coming through on that Bruce Highway.
Well, I think the most brilliant thing they're doing on Saturday is they're going to spell out the word Gympie using people. Drone photography really does take us to a new level.
Yeah, it'll be great. And the beauty of it is too, it's going to put us in the media, which, is a good positive thing for Gympie. So that's great.
After the last few years, while they've been building the bypass, everyone has been commenting about the impact that this is going to have on Gympie. There's a whole handful that think it's going to be positive, and then of course, a whole handful that think it's going to be negative.
Oh, look, community's made up of people who are glass half full, glass half empty. What it's going to come down to, I think, is how well things have been planned, like the exits and where they're coming in. And it's going to change a lot of what's around Gympie, but I think for the best reasons. Less traffic means less chance of accidents.
Less traffic near Centro is going to be amazing.
And it'll bring the two halves of Gympie on both sides of the river. Instead of having the river and the highway separating them and splitting them, it's going to bring everything closer together. I love it.
I thought it was interesting the other day when the Chamber of Commerce and the Gympie Rattler came out and talked about the Rattler has to be there to get people to come to Gympie. What do you think, Bruce?
Well, I thought they were there. So no change.
I don't think whether the highway is open or not open, it's going to make a change to the Rattler. People are either going to come or they won't.
That's right. The Rattler doesn't, stand there with a sandwich board or a bit of cardboard that they're waving at traffic to try and get people to come on.
And also, because so many of the trains get booked out, you can't just suddenly decide that you want to take the train.
That's right. Wonderful attraction for Gympie. I think it'll go from strength to strength still.
Well, Gympie's got so much on at the moment.
It
Next
really
weekend is also the Little Kids' Big Day Out.
Oh, is that on next weekend as well? That is a big weekend. Because on Sunday, we've also got the RSL mural being officially opened.
Right, I'm sure people remember when that was getting together with ideas and concepts. They had some planning meetings. Now, who's been spearheading that, Bruce?
It's been Martin Muller and the RSL and Angel from Heart and Soul Sisters. That's my understanding of it. They're the two people that I was dealing with.
Oh, that'll be great.
I can't wait because the artwork that I saw with all the community input was really special.
Well, the other big thing that they're actually going to unveil this mural on Sunday the 18th, which is Veterans Day.
Yeah, it fits in really well, doesn't it?
So if you're not doing anything at 8:30 a.m. A lot of people are still in bed. Pop down there to the RSL and be the first to see the magnificent mural that will be unveiled.
I'm going to be there. I want to support it because I think it's a great idea.
Of course, the biggest thing that's happening in the region at the moment is the Gympie Music Muster.
Yes, it's huge. I believe you've had a little bit to do with this one.
Well, the Gympie Women's Shed has done most of the theming for this year's muster.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And I can tell you, after being involved in this whole project, the 4 people that run it, and there's basically 4 people who get paid to run the muster, and they get about 3,000 volunteers from all over Australia that come to help. But this year, they've got about 40 community groups working with the muster to do all the tasks. I should say some of these community groups get remuneration or they just get free tickets to the muster. And at $500 a pop, it's well and truly worth it.
This is what I always loved about the muster. Like over the decades, it's community coming together and putting this on. And it's a wonderful attraction. There's nothing like volunteering and doing something with people who have a similar interest. It's good fun. I mean, you must have had a few laughs out there.
A lot of blood, sweat and tears.
Yeah, but I often found it was more fun in the lead up than it was even at the muster, which is fantastic fun.
So if you go out to the muster this year and you see these amazing creations around the place, they were made by the Gympie Women's Shed.
What's your favourite?
Oh, the cows and the chickens. They're metal. You wait till you see them.
Cows and chickens.
We haven't put anything up online yet because we want it to be a surprise when people see it first.
So make sure you do. When you see them, put them up and say the Gympie Women's Shed did these. Give them a plug.
Now, the other thing that I think is absolutely brilliant is the pre-muster party is back in Mary Street again. And that must be all due to Tony Goodman.
I love the pre-muster party. A lot of people can't get out there because of work and so forth to help, and it just brings a little bit of it, a little bit of the excitement to town, but also it's good for the main street. It's just another thing that we've got that's fun.
Well, lots has been happening in the main street in Gympie. Shops open, shops closed.
Shops open is fantastic, isn't
But
it?
one of the most exciting one that has finally opened is the one that was behind the mural that was painted.
That's right, and that was by Angel, Heart and Soul Sisters again, that did that mural to try and help to brighten the street because it was a bit ugly.
It was very ugly.
Yeah, and I remember when we were doing it, we were told, it's probably only going to be there maximum 6 months.
It was a lot
A lot
longer,
longer.
than 6 months.
So thank goodness we did it. In mural news, there's a bit more, Annie. The duck ponds. I was out there today and I noticed the mural wasn't there, the one that I expected behind the toilets.
They started that months ago because I can remember reading on social media where Angel was calling for people to come and do community workshops to make the mural. And so I believe that's happened.
Yeah, it's all painted and they're just waiting for council to put a framework up so that they can put it on. When that gets up there, that's going to be great too.
But speaking of new businesses in town, did you hear what they're doing to the old Kalula milk factory?
And I'm pretty excited because Diablo, they are a sponsor of the fishing classic out at Rainbow Beach. So I know the company, I've worked with the company and they are fantastic. They're energetic, forward moving. I think they'll be great for our region.
Well, not only that, but they are an international award-winning product.
Yeah, that's right.
They actually won the Rum Awards for their 1330 Pacific Rum. So it's not like they're not recognised worldwide. Now, onto some more serious matters, Bruce. I was reading in the Gympie Times that the Barumba Pumped Hydro Project is far from a done deal. After all that consultation, after it's been going on for months.
I was surprised to learn that, or to hear that the LNP, if they get in, they're going to cancel it. I mean, after all the money that's been spent, I see that as a complete waste.
Oh, it is. And we need hydro power because solar and wind isn't going to cut it.
Yeah,
They've already worked that out.
Yeah, it's a battery. That's what it is. It's a way of storing power from solar and everything else so that we can use it at night. It's a great idea. But even more than that, what I love about it is the base dam's going to be made bigger. So that's more water in the same spot, not a new dam, the same spot we can use for farmers and for us, for drinking water.
Well, it's very much a go-to place for water sports.
And hopefully they'll encourage that and do even more when it's done.
Because they have such follow-on effects because you've got to go to Imbil to get out there. So, of course, let's stop in Imbil for something to eat. That's fantastic for the local businesses. There's 2 bakeries out there now.
And of course, the other thing with the dam and bringing people in, Mary Valley is a wonderful brand, Mary Valley. And you've got Kandanga, the club there, and Kandanga Hotel. You know, all those little
Kandanga
towns.
farm stays and lots of little
Amamore with the
Airbnbs
rat
out.
lemon in there and the, what was it called, Green Meadows or whatever that little place is.
Well, I was reading the other day that that's like the new go-to area now because it's so untouched and so pristine. That's where people from Brisbane, that's where they're looking at travelling to now.
Because it's beautiful.
Absolutely. A place you'd want to go and stay. Did you hear about that guy that got accidentally eaten by a crocodile in North Queensland?
I'd be more upset if it was deliberately eaten.
The doctor who did
No,
all
I
this
didn't.
really amazing work in the community and he actually slipped in the water and got taken by a crocodile.
That's dreadful.
But that brings up all the conversations about do we really need to cull crocodiles?
Yes.
I mean, everyone's favourite politician, Bob Katter, absolutely believes that we need to bring back crocodile culling.
I think if they're in spots where we are, then yes. I think if they're not, no. If people go swimming in a place where there isn't any civilization around, it's just a part of a river, they're taking a risk and they should know that. And that's the environment and habitat for the crocodiles. But if they're coming to where we are because we're looking a bit tasty, then I would
They
rather.
are starting to work their way down the south coast as climate changes, the water gets warmer. And of course, the amazing floods we've had over the last few years, floods push crocodiles into areas where they've never been.
I mean, the difficulty is if we are going to have them down here and we're not going to do anything, we have to educate people on being close to the water.
Look, being a person that comes from the Northern Territory, there's nothing better than going to a river and seeing the sign that says, do not swim crocodiles, with everyone's beach towel hanging over it. Now, Bruce, I know that this is not your forte anymore, but we've got to talk about the Gympie Council and what they've been up to in the last few months.
Can I come straight out and say I've been a little bit impressed with the work being done around town?
What type of work?
Well, we've got the road that was widened, Station Road, is it?
Yes.
And that work
finally
just
finished.
been opened.
Well, that did go on for a while.
It did, but I mean, when you think about the work that had to be done there was underground infrastructure as well, and now we've got a footpath down the side with a nice fence that's going to get kicked in really quickly. I think it's great because it's safer for kids that go to the high school and so forth walking home. So I love that. I think the rotunda's open, the bandstand. And I'm so happy.
That took a while.
Finally, yeah. Not happy about the time it took, but I'm happy it's done. And there's just been a lot of work with parks being looked after well and everything. I don't know what the difference is, but I really like it. It's
One of the
great.
big things that's actually kicked in over the last few months is the funding that the council got for flood restoration after the floods to fix up all the roads. I mean, they're finally starting to get out to the more rural areas where a lot of damage was done, and bit by bit, the private contractors they've employed. Mind you, this is not with Gympie Council money. This is with grant money from the state government.
And I can't remember the exact figure, but it was like 26, 28, 29 applications, separate applications were done to get that money. So it gives you an idea. You know, every one of those is a lot of work.
Well, of course, the biggest thing that we have to talk about, council, is the rate spree.
9.3, was it, or 1?
Well, let's just round it up to 10%.
Yeah, why not when you're talking those figures?
Which is quite a big jump.
You know, everything's got more expensive, but we put rates up in that last one because things were going up, and we took a hit for it. You know, people weren't happy, so God knows what
people weren't happy. You should read social media. Even though I must admit, I don't think I've ever read so much disinformation in my life. About 6-7 years ago, council had a huge excess of money put away, and then that got spent on the Ark, the swimming centre, and of course the Rattler.
Yep.
So the reserves dwindled, and I believe council justified this 10% rate rise now because they need money for a new water treatment plant.
Yeah, and part of it is if council can't show the state government that we're collecting the right amount of money for our water from the residents, then the state will just go, well, you're not serious about it, and they won't help. I think that's the logic behind it. But by the same token, I also think if the right maintenance was done all the way through and things were replaced as they should have been, all that sort of stuff, we wouldn't be sitting with what is potentially a $100 million debt that we're going to have to go into to get this thing done.
And of course, the biggest complaint that people had is people in rural areas who don't use town water, who don't get a rubbish collection, who live on an unmade road, really question why their rates are going up 10%.
Yeah, well, if that's the reason they're giving, you've got to wonder, don't you? But then a lot of them come in if it's a drought and they get water from the water bowser things that we've got around the place, or they use services of businesses that use the town. Do you know what I mean? It all kind of fits together. I mean, I don't use the roads that are out there in front of the different farms going, hundreds of kilometres, but I accept that that's really important to maintain.
Another thing that was very interesting that was discussed online at length, it's interesting that Gympie region really loves talking about council, was a lot of people just realised that council is really administered by the CEO. And people were asking questions about why the CEO wasn't voted in, because the CEO has such power.
He is voted in. He's voted in by councillors. The CEO is the only position that councillors have any say over.
Because really, they're running, and it is. Gympie City Council is Gympie's biggest business. It employs more people and has a higher turnover than even Corbett's.
And it is the one business, if you want to look at it like that if it did go under, would affect every single person in the region.
Oh, it would be catastrophic. But that's in all regions. Now, an interesting thing that was reported on last week about council too was their massive gender pay gap was revealed, Bruce.
Yeah, I'm always a little standoffish with that sort of thing because I think what you have to do is look at a person in a particular role. Are the male and the females in that role getting paid the same? And I think the answer is always yes. These days. It has to be, because you can't, when you go for a job, there's a pay for a certain position. So is it more what they're talking about is that if you look at all the females in council and all the males and average it out, the males are getting more.
That's right. So what it's about is that the majority of females in the Gympie Council have got the lower paid jobs. What they're talking about is there are not enough women in the more executive roles. And I look at the executive, when you watch the live stream meetings, you can see them. They're all male. And like a lot of organisations, they've been there for a while.
Okay, so...
But you do wonder why, because there's so many qualified females out there now.
Well, we've had female executives in council, directors, and even while I was there, we had one die. And I know that when we were going for CEO and we were interviewing people, we had females apply.
Still didn't pick one.
It would have been wrong to pick someone because they're one gender or the other. What we
Absolutely
did was
agree.
we looked at everyone and we did proper interviews with a certain amount, and there were women amongst them, and in the end we chose what we thought was the best person for the job.
Well, one of the most interesting recommendations I've read about in gender equity gap, payments, is when resumes come in, when they're presented to the board or the people who are going to read them, the name and the sex of that person is taken off the application.
Yeah, I like that idea.
So people cannot tell if you're male or female.
Or foreign.
Or
Do you know what I mean? If you've got a name that shows that you're, belong to a certain
ethnicity.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I would love to see that. It is not a common practice, because the gender equity gap at Gympie Council is 19%.
Oh, yeah.
And that is quite high.
But it's a statistic, and you can do stuff with statistics. So I need more information than just that. But to be honest with you, I haven't read it. I saw something, but I haven't gone into it. I've been a bit busy, Annie.
Well, people who have got time now can go on amazing trips around Queensland for only 50 cents, Bruce.
Oh, this is something that really excites me. I love the idea. If you want to improve usage of our public transport, and we have to, what a great way to do it, to get people to actually go, you know what, it doesn't cost much to try it, let's give it a go. So I think it's great.
I think one of the most impressive things is you can get the train to Brisbane for 50 cents.
Wonderful, isn't it?
The more the public uses public transport, the less they're driving on the roads. The less people are driving on the roads, there's less pollution, there's less wear and tear on the roads, there's less parking in town.
It's what excites me the most. I think if this shows people it's worthwhile and it's not as bad as what they think, maybe they'll use it more. But I also think hopefully what it'll show the government is more people using public transport, and it will cost, there'll be extra cost there. But compare that to the cost of maintaining roads and upgrading roads.
What I'd like to know, Bruce, is what's your opinion on whether this was just an election vote grabbing?
My opinion is I don't care. I just like the idea and I'll take it. I'm not going to look that gift horse in the mouth. I think the timing of it's a little bit on the nose. Yeah. However, I'll take it.
I'd like to see if it continues after 6 months.
Hopefully it'll be so popular and people will really say, oh, we want this more, keep it up, and they'll go, yeah, it's actually going to save us money.
Well, I was reading one particular person who had to go through all the tolls and everything, that they were going to save something like $120 a week.
Probably parking and everything else as
well.
It
was the toll fees, the wear and tear on the car, your fuel and parking. And now that's a lot of money to put back into a family.
Yeah, it is.
In this current crisis.
Pretty good, lowering of your tax bracket, if you want to look at it like that.
Well, there's some pretty good money that's come out lately. The $1,000 into our electricity account can't be sneezed at.
I was worried I wasn't going to get all that because I thought we've got solar, so they'll only give us what we owe. Like after the solar comes out,
but no,
they got the whole thing.
It goes as a credit.
Yes, I did a little jig.
So I really love, because as we all know, what often happens with handouts from the government is they get spent in the wrong areas. People get the money and it just disappears to somewhere.
Harvey Norman did a lot of it. Remember that?
Oh yes, the baby bonus.
Everyone had a new TV.
And the Harvey. But as it sits now, people who have got solar, who have got this, probably won't be paying a power bill for about 10 years.
Wonderful, isn't it?
Have you heard, Bruce, how they're thinking about, and I mean thinking about, and who they are is very questionable, stopping tourists going to Kagari, or Fraser Island, which there was another big debate about that online. People refused to call it by its new name.
I don't think there's anything wrong with having both names.
So and this has got a lot to do with the dingoes. You probably read in the paper, there's been quite a few different attacks, so they want to basically fence off half the island. And then the other day, someone lit a campfire in the wrong place. Huge, great fire out there again.
Yeah, but we don't, if someone accidentally has a fire or something, we don't suddenly close off everything around it where the fire was on the mainland.
So do you think the tourist numbers need to be limited?
I do. I don't have a problem with that, but I don't want to see things closed off to your everyday person. I just think there's so little these days where you can actually go on a bit of a proper adventure And Fraser Island is a proper adventure when you go over there. It's not exactly like being Bear Grylls out in the forest or anything, because you are in a four-wheel drive with an esky, and there isn't just a shop on every corner and all the rest of it. And I know that just when we took my kids out to Double Island Point and went for a drive along the beach, they were excited. It's exciting. I want people to be able to get that experience if they
Well,
want
I'm just wondering how long it's going to be before they stop people driving on the beach. And that, of course, is thanks to all the people who have absolutely no consideration for anyone else.
Yeah, but if we do that, if that's the argument that they're making, we'd stop people driving on the roads. Because they're behaving the same on the road. Far better what they're doing this week, which is they're having that blitz where they're out there booking people. 300 people
Finished
booked.
on the 8th. Finished on the 8th.
Yeah, but 300 were booked. I think that's fantastic. That sends a message. You know, if you want to use this, you're going to have to behave yourself. That's great.
I actually think so too.
I always worry with national parks and stuff, and it is the thing. They said, they're going to close it off. The Indigenous people will close it off once they get it, blah, blah, blah. So to go down that path would be really silly.
Well, there are quite a few national parks that get temporarily closed.
Yeah.
And they say that's to allow for regeneration and things like that. But I find it quite frustrating when you want to go to a particular area and I'm sorry, that's closed at the moment for the next year.
But I find if I go to one of the theme parks and one of the rides is closed off for maintenance that I like, I find that frustrating too. So I get what you're saying. And
Yes.
the other thing is that they've got all this ecotourism and it's more expensive. And so the trouble with ecotourism, where they've got these little huts and stuff that they want to do, is that it's really pushing the little guy out. It's pushing your lower classes, middle classes out. And I don't like that.
Now, for a complete change of pace, guess what happened at my place this week? One of my little chooks, I've got those fancy chooks with the nice fluffy feet, it got taken by an eagle.
I'm sorry?
I'm very fortunate. I live out in the national park and I've got 3 eagles that live in my valley. And yes, we let the chooks out and when we went to put them in, there was one missing. So they swooped it, they come down so low, we feel like we can touch them sometimes.
Now, you were telling me this morning that you've also lost a cow, haven't
I
you?
lost a cow.
Have you checked the eagle's nest?
They're big eagles. I mean, their wingspan, they're amazing. But I don't think it was the eagles. I don't know where the cow went. So if anyone out Cedar Pocket Way has got one new cow in their paddock and she goes by the name of Chloe, if you call her, she'll answer. We want her back. So, Bruce, final thoughts for today.
I'm just happy to be back on the microphone, Annie, and talking to you and just discussing this place that we love, Gympie.
It is amazing. If you read social media, everyone who moves here loves the place.
Yeah.
They
And
just
I can
love the place.
And I can understand.
For all the things that we take for granted, the friendly people, the fresh air, and community spirit. And I must say,
And GYG?
Gympie has amazing community spirit.
Yeah, it does. You're right, though. People that live here complain. It's not like it was, or, they're ruining it with this. No, we are so lucky to be in this place. It's beautiful, and I think we should all appreciate it.
Anyway, have a fantastic time out there. Stay safe. If you're going to the muster, definitely stay safe.
And definitely take photos of the chickens and the cows.
And remember to take everything in Gympie
Seriously!